Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network, flying two pilots tonight. We're one man short, but that's all right as we move our way through a thicket of AFLW games. My name's Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by the one and only Mr. Johnny Larkin. How are you, John Doe?
Yeah, not too bad. Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good.
Good.
And, I can't complain. And if I did,
No one would listen.
Yes. Yes.
You enjoyed a grand
Oh,
final?
there's a lot. What was that one?
Enjoyed a grand final?
Didn't
AFLM.
watch a minute of the grand final.
Fair enough.
Neither team worth my watching. So congratulations to the Brisbane Bears triumphing over the Sydney Academy's side. It was apparently, by all accounts, a lopsided defeat. Tonight, Johnny, we're not talking about a lopsided defeat, but we are talking about a disappointing defeat. We are going to talk about Geelong's round 5 AFLW defeat at the hands of the Hawks. It has left the Cats' finals hopes hanging by a thread is how you would describe it. So we're going to recap all of that. Now, because of the condensed fixture, Johnny, we're also, after we do that, we're going to get straight into the Cats v Dockers round 6 preview pod. Straight into it. You know, when they're sitting down and drawing up these bullshit fixtures, they don't think about, the people that really matter. The independent podcasters, sitting at home trying to work out how the hell they're going to fit all these different shows and previews in 4 games in 16 days. That's 8 podcasts with previews and recaps. Come on.
So many.
So we're going to get into that. And then for our Patreon subscribers at the end of the night, we're going to jump over and we're going to say thank you to them. And we're going to do our Patreon match predictions. So it's going to be a big show over the next hour and a bit. And before we get into it, Johnny, we need to say a big Hoops Crew Media Network thank you to our media network sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist. Jumped on board for the W season and the men's finals and already signed up for 2025. You can visit their website, www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. You can visit them. You can give them a buzz on the phone, 035 222 2244. Or if you want to make use of our very special 20% in-store discount, you can go on over, visit them at Shop 12, 11 Leather Street in Breakwater. Tell them that the Hoops Crew sent you, and you will get 20% off your next in-store purchase. Go on, do it. Go and make use of that 20% discount, you lovely mongrels. All right, let's get into it, Johnny. I want to get through my little talking bit here so that you can start unpacking your thoughts from this game. So here we go. Here's how it unfolded in case any of you didn't get to watch the game, in case any of you, avoided the disappointment on the night. It actually started pretty well for Geelong. They got the opening goal of the game to Jackie Parry after just 2 minutes and 9 seconds. The Hawks, though, responded. Caitlin Ashmore and Anya McDonough also goaled after 9 minutes and 16 seconds. So the Hawks had the lead, but Geelong responded strongly. Goals to Julia Crockett-Grills and Nina Morrison before the quarter-time break put the Cats up 3-2-20 to 2-2-14. Geelong, they shot out of the gates early in the second quarter. A goal to Shelley Scott, a behind to Shelley Scott, a further 3 behinds, 1 rushed, 2 rushed, 1 to Jackie Parry. The Cats, they had their moments in the first sort of 12 minutes of the second quarter to slam the door shut on the Hawks, but they could not do it. And unfortunately, the Hawks were those unruly house guests who were all too happen to see that little gap and just kick it wide open. They kicked the last 2 goals of the quarter to Louise Stevenson and Talia Fellows. That narrowed the gap to 4-4-28 to 4-6-30, just 2 points at the half. There was bad news for the Cats with both Amy McDonald being ruled out with a hamstring injury, Kate Sermon ruled out after a bump from Tamara Smith. I thought that was a bit borderline. Like, I don't know, 3 weeks seems excessive. Maybe a week would have done it. But anyway, it did rule Kate Sermon out of the game. So I suppose that factored into the decision. And the Hawks went on with it in the third quarter. They kicked 4 goals unanswered. Laura Stone, Eileen Gilroy, Amy McDonough again, and Laura Stone for her second of the night. The Cats responded late with a goal to Aisling Maloney. Of course, it was Aisling Maloney. But that closed the gap to just 18 points. And when I say just 18 points, it wasn't a big impact on that lead that the Hawks had built. The Cats, they were outsiders. Mackenzie Erdley got a goal early for the Hawks in the final quarter to push the margin back out to 4 goals. The Cats got 2 in a row, Shelley Scott and Aisling Maloney, but the Hawks had all the answers. They got 2 in a row. The Cats, another 2 in a row near the end to Prasparkas and Maloney to pull it back to 2 goals. However, Jasmine Fleming put the icing on the cake for the Hawks. They round this game out 12-7-79 to 9-7-61 winners. 3 goals, the margin in the end. Johnny, there were people on Twitter, there were people on the broadcast talking about this being one of the best games of AFLW footy they'd watched. It was the highest losing score in an AFLW game. It was the largest score Geelong has ever conceded in an AFLW match. What were your takeaways from this game as the Cats fall to a crushing home loss against the Hawks?
Pretty frustrated, really, with how it all unfolded during the game with injuries to Amy McDonald and Kate Sermon being taken out with concussion. Yeah, that sort of really summed up the nights for the Cats and this season, just not going our way and just bounces of balls going not our way either. Like there was that goal to, I can't remember which Hawthorn player it was, but just like kicked it into the goal square and it was spinning one way, and as it bounced, it just did a 90-degree bounce straight through goals. It was just, yeah, it just really felt like a night that wasn't going the Cats' way, and it didn't. But also felt like we were never out of the game. It felt like we could mount that challenge, get the victory, until like it was far too late. That it was like, oh yeah, this we're not going to be able to come back. But I always felt like we could, and I think if we still had Amy McDonald out there, at least we would have been much closer because she, working with Nina Morrison and Georgie Prasparkas from that midfield, was really elite and electric and looked really well drilled, well thought out, and was working wonders. Like we were playing good football when those three were playing together, using a tandem effort to get the ball forward. Like all the pressure together, the way to just move the ball from defense to forward line was really, really silky and smooth and amazing to watch. And then as soon as Amy McDonald went out, we're just missing that extra link. And we all know how important player Amy McDonald is to the Geelong Cats. So it's a massive, massive loss, and we definitely felt it on that night. I thought Georgie and Nina really had to do that extra lift, and all the hard work wasn't really getting that reward in like the scores, in the goals or inside 50s, and we just couldn't get it past the Hawthorn's like defensive line. So full credit to Hawthorn, they played the game really well, and I agree it was a really, really good game. Frustrating game on the Cats side, but if you're a neutral, yeah, it would be a pretty exciting game to watch with the high scores, free flowing game, lots of goals, lots of tackles, hard hits. Yeah, it's just another really disappointing end to another game where it felt like we were right there, and then it was just taken from us. And again, we lose a really important player just after we get Georgie Prasparkas back, and she's playing really well. Nina Morrison was playing excellent. Amy McDonald was playing excellent. As I said, all three of them together looked really deadly. But as soon as AMAC went out, it sort of we just lost that structure, especially in the midfield. That structure just sort of petered out, and because we're defending so much, when we did get it out of defence, it was really hard to get it through that midfield of Hawthorn because they had those midfielders set up, and we had Georgie, Nina, Webster having to help defend because the ball was going in so much. So yeah, it was just a bitterly disappointing way to nearly end the season. Like it's going to be really hard to make finals, but I still got a lot of faith in this team that they can turn this around without Amy McDonald. Like losing it halfway through the game was really, really hard, and going two down on the bench made it even harder. And you could tell that the Hawks just had that extra run, that extra pace, extra energy to go where the Cats just couldn't keep up. But I don't know. There's still positives, but the big negative of no McDonald.
Yeah, it's so hard. Like the injury thing, as you said, sometimes you just you get 5 or 6 games into a season, and you just start to think maybe this just isn't gonna happen. Like, and that's what you think as a fan. I don't know if it's what you think as a player, but like you said, you start the year without Shear, but even before that, the the retirement and stepping away from Erin Hoare and Olivia Fuller, where suddenly, your ruck room is bare, at a time of the year where it's really hard to address it. The draft is gone, trade's gone, so they sign Lily Pearce. Lily Pearce doesn't even set foot into a competitive AFLW game because she does a season-ending injury. So that sort of compounds it now. I thought we really did get exposed in the ruck on the I was going to say on the weekend, on Thursday night. I literally have no idea when the games were played, when they will be played,
It's
what
crazy,
year
isn't
it is, what type of conscious entity I even am. But
here's the hit
I
out stats. Sorry.
yeah,
Hawthorn had 4 players that had hit outs, with Lucy Wales having 39, then Louise Stephenson with 5, Mackenzie Erdley with 4, and Amy Donna with 2.
and
And the Cats only had 2 players to contest in a ruck. So yeah, that's very much stretching that rucking.
And right there, you can just see, even with Lucy Wales' stats, this is what happens when you've got a makeshift ruck situation going up against someone else's number one. Lucy Wales is second on the ground in terms of AFL fantasy points, only to Eliza West. She has 22 disposals, 4 marks, 4 tackles, 39 hitouts, and 3 clearances. And it told over the course of the night. We end up losing the hitouts 35-25. It's big. The center clearance is 16-5. Geelong actually shaded the stoppage clearances 20-19. But I just thought you saw the impact of having no number one, ruck. And again, I don't want to belabor the point because we say it every week, but it's not meant to be a dig at Kate Darby or Gabby Featherston, but they are, that patch player where it's like, we don't have anyone else to go to. We're going to put you in there and you're going to do a job, and that they compete their absolute guts out. But I think it could be one of the biggest differences between this Cats team and whatever they look like in 2025 is if they get another legitimate ruck. I don't think it's a coincidence that our best year of AFLW footy came having Erin Hoare in the side, who averaged 20 plus hitouts a game. She's the only Cats ruck woman to do that. I'll just, too, Johnny, I wanted to hit on this. You were talking about how the night sort of unfolded, the bounce of the ball, the luck, the flow of the game. Stood out to me again where the second quarter, Geelong was actually on top. very much so, and they kick 1-4 to Hawthorn's 2-2. And it was the fact that the Cats had a real dominant period up until about 12.5-minute mark. And that was when Louise Stevenson kicked the goal that dragged it back under 10 points. Just before that, like a minute before that, Jackie Parry had missed a set shot. I reckon she'd back herself to kick most times. You can go back to the first quarter. I think Aisling Maloney had an effort on the run that I think most times she'd back herself to kick. The Cats 4-6-30 at halftime to 4-4-28, and the Hawks going in having kicked the last two and got it back. They were down 30-15 at one point. I just feel like this used to be a league that you could actually survive mucking up against some other teams. You could survive like going, oh, we dominated there. We didn't quite put it on the scoreboard, but it's okay because, this opponent probably won't, have the skill to hurt us. Those teams are really getting fewer and fewer. They can hurt you. Most of this league will now hurt you if you don't put them away. I go back to the Melbourne game, Johnny. We had times where it looked like we had Melbourne on the ropes. We could not land the killer blow. The Carlton game, when it was all locked up, and even in the early part of that game, we could not put it on the board. Carlton land the big blow and put us away. And it felt like the same stuff again here in this second quarter, where the Cats had most of the running for 2/3 of the second quarter, and they just could not land the knockout blow. How do you feel about, we've talked a lot about how the forward line is functioning, I think this season. Like, I think they've actually worked it out. I mean, they kicked 61 points, and it seems like Shelley Scott is now back in form. Aisling Maloney has found form. Jackie Parry's had a great season. I want to go to the other end of the field. How are you feeling about where the back line is positioned at the moment? Do you think that the back line, are they playing fairly well, but maybe were exposed in the end by a tired midfield who ran out of, sort of juice? I mean, we only made 44 rotations compared to Hawthorn's 59. What's your sort of read on the defense this season? And did you notice anything good or bad that stood out against the Hawks?
I wouldn't say our defense is as good as it was last year. I think they've definitely not dropped the ball, but just dropped their normal standard that we were used to seeing last year. Like, I feel like they're just not feeling like there's a united group back there as much as they were last year. They seem to just be a bit hesitant sometimes going for the ball, a bit just skill errors, the basic skill errors, where they just invite a bit more pressure than what usually you would expect. And mainly, like, Meg McDonald seems very not just a bit off her usual best, where she's just a bit shaky at the moment, where she goes for the ball and can't pick it up cleanly, or it's just a bit slippery, or something. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I just think there's just off the usual best. I don't think it will take much to get them back to their best, but yeah, there's definitely something there that are just not gelling or clicking this year at the moment, and it's just inviting that little bit of extra pressure. And on the weekend, when the midfield isn't, as we said in the AFLM, if the midfield's not working in tandem with defense and the forwards, it's going to put so much more pressure on the back line, and that's exactly what's happening in the AFLW at the moment, especially when we lose Amy McDonald. And as I said, as soon as Amy McDonald went out of this game, that's when the pressure really started to ramp up on the defence, and Hawthorn were able to just get repeat entries. And as soon as you start getting those repeat entries, defence starts getting a bit more tired, a bit more below their best, and the opposition know it's going to come back in, so they can make those. They get a bit more energized of going, it's going to come back in. Let's get it to a better position, and catches the defence off guard. So it's nothing to be too stressed or freaked out by. I know this defensive unit's really good, and they can turn it around really quickly, and I do believe they will. It's just at the moment I feel like they're just inviting that pressure in a bit more than what they usually would. But overall, I still think they're competing as hard as they usually do. Can't fault the effort, can't fault anything that they're doing. It's just I just feel like it's just those skill errors that are just letting that pressure get to them a bit more than what they usually would. Um, but yeah, it's a tough one because when the ball goes in fairly regularly, it does add that pressure. But yeah, I do enjoy what I'm seeing. But yeah, it's just that little skill error stuff that's just causing them a few headaches at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I was just looking. I would have said going into the season, I backed Rachel Kearns to be one of our best defenders. I think for much of the season, she probably has been. Meg McDonald, we talked about wanting to see her sort of return to form. Anna Rose Kennedy, we knew she'd be a work in progress, but it those three, they combined for 8 disposals on the night and no marks, 1 tackle.
Mm,
So that that's going to make it pretty hard. Like, I actually thought Hawthorn did a good job taking Rachel Kearns out of this game, because she's not just a defensive weapon for the Cats. You know, she's an attacking weapon as well with how she helps the side rebound out of the back 50. But it's just very interesting. Like, I suppose you've talked about Meg McDonald there. Definitely, just it's been a season well below what her
mm,
probably standards are. Claudia Gunjaka has definitely stood up yet again this season. I think Chantal Eamonson has had a pretty good season as well. But,
yeah,
when you look at that chunk of your backline in Kearns, Kennedy, and McDonald, averaging less than 3 disposals on the night, not taking a mark between them, it does make it hard. And part of that, I think, too, was down to Hawthorn's exceptional ball use inside 50. They looked so
yeah,
threatening
they
when
did.
they were breaking down our back line. Um, and it was one of those things too, Johnny, and it's hard to know. It's not that hard to know. I think if you look at it, we did run out of legs in the middle because I thought you saw lots of instances in that second half where we all got sucked to the inside of a contest.
Mm,
Hawthorn are able to slip a ball out or a ball just bobbles out of the contest and they're set up on the outside and they just whisk it away down the field. Um,
yeah, there's
we just were not able to stop that uncontested game from them.
no, and it was as mentioned to you and Sam on the night, we're just getting sucked into that applying pressure, but everyone applying pressure on the one player with the ball. And then it happened so many times where the 3 players went to 1 Hawthorn player. It's just a handball over the top to 3 Hawthorn players on the run. And yeah, that was one of those nights where it's just like, yeah, we're just falling back into some old habits of apply pressure on this player at once, get them a bit, you know, unnerve them a bit, get them a bit rattled because they're a new team. But, Hawthorn were not rattled. They were very well composed. They got the job done and got it out, unfortunately. And the Cats were the ones that got a little bit rattled, weren't able to handle the pressure as well as the Hawthorn did. So, yeah, I think this one most likely be reviewed and go through what needs to be done without Amy McDonald. And I've got a feeling that they could bounce back pretty strongly on Tuesday night in 2 days' time. Um, yeah, hopefully they do at home again against Fremantle. I think they'll want to, you know, do a bit better than what they were able to put up against Hawthorn, and I think they will. But yeah, that pressure, just applying that unnecessary amount of pressure on one player when there was so much on the outside was a bit frustrating to see. Had to see a
Mm.
few times when there was a ruck throw in, and there was Cats on the boundary side, and there was a whole heap of Hawthorn players free on the inside. I was like, that's going to go straight to them and another inside 50. And as you said, the inside 50 use was pretty exceptional. Like they're kicking inside 50. They found their targets each time nearly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, Yeah, I was gonna say I don't wanna look ahead too much at what's to come,
No.
the ladder and all that sort of stuff, but, We'll probably get into it a bit, I suppose, in our preview and what we want to see. It sort of is getting to a critical point now for the Cats in their campaign. Let's talk about some best on ground votes, Johnny, because I sort of wanted to pivot into talking about, some things we saw that we really liked. And I think the best way to do that is probably with votes. I'll let you start with yours. If you give me your one vote, and then I'll give you mine.
No worries. I'm giving my one vote. Just quickly, I'll bring it up. It's going to be the obvious choice. I'm going with Amy McDonald. Even though she only played half a game, I thought that half was exceptional as usual. The way she was able to link up, as I said, with Nina Morrison, Georgie Prasparkas, and Zali Friswell, Michaela Bowen, and everyone else in that midfield to go inside 50 was really exceptional. She was like that linchpin in the middle that just helped just distribute the ball inside 50 and bring in really good pressure as well. She knows how to apply pressure and lay a really good tackle. So yeah, one vote to Amy McDonald.
I gave my one vote. This might be a bit shocking to some people, to Aisling Maloney. I thought there were a few Cats that really probably could have got in there, and Maloney squeezed out of the 2 and 3 by a couple of other players I thought were pretty exceptional. So one vote to Aisling Maloney. I mean, I just can't believe how quickly she's just developed. She's absolutely fearsome, awesome, highly skilled, and all of her different talents were just on display on the night. She kicked some amazing goals, flashed some amazing speed. So, one vote to Maloney for me.
Nice. My two votes are going to Aisling Maloney for all those reasons. Like, just again, she's, as you said, incredible player. Going to be an incredible talent for the Cats, and just her speed, agility, and goal sense it's like she was born to play this game, and yeah, it's exciting to see her just develop every single game.
It did bug me that the commentators said that she came from County Galway, because that is just factually incorrect. She's from County Tipperary.
Just so shows how much they really know about the players playing this game.
And I guess, look, I will cut them some slack here, only in the sense that there's plenty of times where we might misquote something or whatever. But I hope that's the case, that they may be thinking about another Irish player, maybe from the Hawks or something, and it's just come out wrong. But hopefully that's the case. But anyway, Aisling Maloney was incredible. I'm giving my 2 votes, though, to Georgie Prasparkas. I thought she returned and looked like the Georgie Prasparkas of old. Some moments in particular stood out to me, Johnny, and that was just her ability to deftly, kick on the outside of the boot. Like, I think she's actually got better this season as opposed to the last few. Her ability now to win the ball, and she used to always have that chaos kick, and that was fine and often got results. There were 2 occasions tonight where one on the Thursday night. One was to Shelley Scott on the lead that she kicked on the outside of the boot, kicking to the left of screen, just outside of the boot, and it was just perfectly weighted to Shelley Scott's run, and she was able to run on and chest mark it in a position where her opponent couldn't get to her. That was a beautiful setup. The other one was the kick, I believe it was to, I hope this was Georgie Prasparkas and not Nina Morrison, but I think it was Georgie Prasparkas who delivered the kick to Julia Crockett-Grills to cap that incredible move off. Yeah, it must have been, because she's got 2 goal assists. That move that we were talking about earlier, where it was, Kate Kenny sold some candy on the wing and gave a long kick in, and there's a nice bit of interplay before Prasparkas just could have blazed away, but instead just pulled a kick beautifully to Julia Crockett-Grills. I just thought Prasparkas showed, ball winning toughness, but also class and poise with the ball in hand. So 2 votes for her. Who was your 3 votes, Johnny?
I'm going with Nina Morrison. I just thought this was one of Nina Morrison's best games of this year and setting a really good standard, just not for herself, but the team. And that goal where she just burst through the stoppage of a nice tap from Kate Darby, just couldn't be stopped, and then kicked a really nice goal to really get the Cats going, was sensational. And then just her work around the ground, like you can, yeah, she's been this Nina Morrison has been missed in the first few weeks. It's really good to see her starting to find those straps and start to take the lead. And it's a good thing that she has, because we're going to need her big time in the next few weeks as Amy McDonald recovers from this hamstring injury. But it's good to see that she's finding this form again, and it's going to be scary because she's looking strong. Like that ability to just break tackles, burst through packs, and then deliver a really good kick inside 50 or to kick a goal is going to be really exciting to watch. And then alongside Georgia Prasparkas, these two, now knowing that AMAC's not there, I think these two will really be able to work really well together. And whoever's going to fill in that Amy McDonald hole in the midfield. But yeah, Nina Morrison, absolute gun, and going to be very, very much needed in the next few weeks. And I reckon she'll be able to step up easily. She's got the ability, she's got the confidence, and she's got the skill.
Yeah, 3 votes from me also to Nina Morrison. She sort of typified, I think, the just the night and day improvement of this league, the quality on the field from when we all first started watching it back in, when was it, 2017? 2016, 2017, whenever the first season was. And to now, it's just like, I don't know, the confidence in their skills, their confidence in their ability to execute. Like, it's great that everyone, who wants to be a naysayer can point to 1 or 2 games where it's like, oh, it was 45-10, or it was, 25-3. What are you? It's like, fantastic. If that's your approach to building something exciting, that you look at things and go, well, this is what it is at its worst, as opposed to, hey, this is what it can be at its best. I don't think you're going to build much exciting, to be honest, in your life. I think you should be looking at the upside of things, the potential of things, particularly when it's staring you in the face, and particularly when those kinds of results, like the great games, are really starting to tip the scales and outweigh the ones that are a bit shit to watch. Like, I just think, Nina Morrison is front and center when I think about players who typify the evolution of the game. But she wasn't alone, and that was what was so exciting about the game on Thursday night. Like, if I remove my Geelong goggles and just look at that as, hey, compare this to when it all started, it's an incredible amount of progress in this sport. And I think it is just the beginning. But yeah, Nina Morrison, she's right on that wave of the evolution of the game, and she was absolutely bloody fantastic on the weekend. On Thursday night, rather. My goodness, John, this is an absolute time warp.
It's an absolute shit show.
Yeah, well, I reckon we might get into that in the second half of the show here. Now, we are going to bring in the halftime horse this week. The halftime horse has been out in a good paddock, getting a good feed in its tummy. So this week we're gonna bring the halftime horse in, and on the other side of the halftime horse's little song, we will deliver our Week 6 preview as the Cats take on the Dockers. Bring in the horse, Colin.
Cordial, your lollies are a spray from the coach. Lollies, absolutely. So you get your cordial, you get your lollies are a spray from the coach. Lollies, absolutely. That's
what halftime's about. Oh, yes, indeed. It is what halftime is about. And we're back for the second half. Strong, ready, recharged. Well, not actually. We didn't go anywhere. We just sat there for like 35 seconds while the horse did its little song. But so we'll launch back in. That's right. God. Sorry, Sydney fans, if you're listening and there's a mention of a
I was
horse.
going to
And
say, if they're listening and actually paying to be a part of our Patreon, welcome. You
Thank
must be feeling absolutely terrible at this time, and too bad your team failed you.
It's all right, John. This is still part of the public show, so it's
Oh,
all
is it?
fine. It's all good. Yeah. This is part of the public, so it's all good.
See, this week
Um,
is completely messing me up.
we do not or not know where we are
No.
or what we're doing, but
Don't spend any time on it, because in the meantime, every 3 months, a person is torn to pieces by a crocodile in North Queensland.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You mentioned
Good
it.
to keep
It's
perspective.
even on the banner what we're doing, and I still didn't bother to read it or properly listen to what you're saying. But
That's all
anyway,
right.
moving on.
We move forward. That's right. Round 6, we're into it. We're doing this a bit differently. Normally, we divide these up into different episodes, but we go from a Thursday game to a Tuesday game. We'll probably do another one of these on Thursday night. It'll be a round 6 recap and a round 6B preview. It's just coming too thick and fast to do multiple separate episodes at the moment, particularly in the midst of our day jobs. So, Cats v Dockers round 6 preview, Johnny. This is a big clash. If you look at Geelong's run home, everyone's sort of saying it's going to be hard for them to make the finals. And I agree with that assessment, Johnny. It is going to be very, very hard for the Cats to make the finals. It isn't, however, impossible. And through a sort of confluence of circumstances, it is somewhat within their control, unbelievably, because they've got this home game against Fremantle, who are currently 6th on the ladder on 4 wins. So the Cats are 10 points behind them. Then they take on the Swans, who are currently 11th. They are ahead of the Cats by 2 points. So another team the Cats could climb. Then they travel to play Richmond at the Swinburne Centre. Richmond currently 5th on 16 points, and they've got an extra game played on what the Cats have. So again, a chance for Geelong to narrow the gap. They host Brisbane, 2nd on the ladder. Again, another team that Geelong can gain 4 points on by defeating them. They travel over to Mineral Resources Park in WA. What a romantic name for a sporting facility.
Isn't it?
All our great memories at Mineral Resources Park. The Eagles under Daisy Pearce currently 7th. Another team above Geelong in the 8 that they can claw some territory back on. They finished the season against the Adelaide Crows at Cardinia Park. The Crows currently sitting in 3rd position, also on 16 points. Johnny, it is a slog from here in terms of the types of opposition we have to play, but we've shown that our best footy is pretty damn good still. It all starts with this game against Fremantle. How are you feeling going into this game against the Dockers? What's your optimism level first about whether we can get a win against Fremantle? And then secondarily, where's your optimism at in terms of our ability to still make a run at finals? Is it like basically no chance? Is it some chance? Are you optimistic? Give us your thoughts on both of those things. First off,
Well,
against the Dockers.
First off, against the Dockers, don't know much how the Dockers are going, but I'm looking at the ladder. They're doing pretty well. They've won 4, they've lost 1. So they're on some fairly good form patch. But I've got a fairly good feeling that we can win this game, knowing the Cats, what they can serve up is really, really good football. We just got to find that form again. And, it's just through some bad luck, bad few skill errors that we're 1-4 and 1-3 and a draw. Like we could be 3-4-1 or 5 straight wins. Like a few things just haven't gone our way. We haven't played the best throughout the games yet. Our most complete performance was against Gold Coast in a smashing. So I feel like where the Cats are and what the Cats are capable of are very different. Like yes, we're definitely able to make finals. It's just we're not playing at that level at the moment to make the finals. But I feel like after this Thursday night's game against Hawthorn in a fairly bitter loss at home. I feel like they're going to come out of the Dockers fairly fired up and looking for a win. So yeah, I think we're in for a good chance of winning this game. Yeah, no, Amy McDonald. We don't know teams yet because they probably won't come out till tomorrow night. So it'd be hard to tell who comes in to replace Amy McDonald. But yeah, I think Tuesday night will be a good test for the Cats because Freo are in the top 8 at the moment. So this is going to be one of those games that, yes, must win. Like all the rest of the games are must win. And I think the Cats going in will go, we just got to win it. And I think they're going with that mentality of going, we just got to win it. We've got nothing to lose. Well, we've got everything to lose. We just got to win this game. And I think we can win this game against Fremantle at home. I think it'll be fired up. The crowd will be fired up, looking for some revenge. And making finals, yeah, I'm still pretty optimistic that we can make finals. Always will be, no matter where we are at on the ladder or until it's the maths he's saying that we can't make it. I still think we can. So yeah, it is in our hands, and this Tuesday night game is one where we've got to go out there and win it. And I'm backing them 100% that they will get this win.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to think about. Yeah, as far as team selection, we'll get into that for sure. I just want to take a real quick, like 2 minutes of your time, just to say the way this season is fixtured is absurd. It is
Yes.
absolutely absurd. 4 games in 16 days, 2 of them being, flights elsewhere, up to the Gold Coast, then up to Sydney to round out the 4 games. It's absurd on a number of levels, Johnny. One, that the wear and tear on players, like during the week, like I joke about it, but saying, like us trying to record 8 podcasts in 16 days or whatever it is, like it is stressful. And then you just times that by a million in terms of,
Yeah.
we're going, oh man, we're a bit worn out from talking about footy or, trying to find the time to edit and upload. Have a think about these players, like trying to keep themselves conditioned, trying to keep themselves in, game shape, trying to reset. That was the big thing I was thinking about tonight, was trying to mentally and emotionally reset after each game. Like it's been a roller coaster of a season. You go from the high of the win against the Gold Coast, you crash down to earth with this loss against the Hawks. You've now got to back up a few days later in a must-win game against the Dockers, and then you're on a plane to Sydney. It's really absurd. I put a tweet out on the night because I was pretty seething about the way the game played out in terms of Amy McDonald goes down injured. Kate Sermon goes out concussed. There is no sub rule in the AFLW. Then you're talking about, Amy McDonald and like she's out for who knows how long. Like, oh, great. So we've condensed the season and a player gets injured. They're even more chance to miss more of the games now. So that's, I just said on Twitter, like, I think we need less people being grateful that the league exists and more people being pissed and vocal about what needs to change. And you can disagree if you want. That's fine. I'd love for you to comment below if you disagree to help boost the algorithm of this video, the views, because it puts money directly in our pockets. But I think that, like, it's just wrong. Is basically what I'll say. It's wrong. The men's, CBA has a minimum minimum days rest requirement, for the health of the players. I was talking with the lads from the Soar to New Heights podcast after this game, and they were saying that, based on their read of the CBA, no such protections exist in terms of minimum days break in the AFLW. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm really disheartened about the way that the speed at which the on-field quality has grown is, insanely good and it is not being matched by how the off field is operated, in my opinion.
No,
And it's disappointing. It's disappointing.
it is, especially as you say, like how many games a year do men have to play after 5 days from the last game? Like maybe once or twice throughout the year, but the women's are having to do it. Each team is having to do it twice in less than 2 weeks. Like 10 games. Oh, like you said, 11 games, 11 days to play 3 games. That's
Well,
insane,
and
especially having to work full-time jobs or part-time jobs, or and trying to find a time to get training in, fitness, then relax and recover from the game. Like, it's absolutely mental what they think these players can do in 5 days.
I believe that the Hawks have to play 4 in 15. So that's a day less than we've got. So it's like, I understand too. I really wanted to make it clear on Twitter. Like, I understand this isn't a Geelong only problem. I was just using our
Yeah.
fixture as an example, but I don't know. I think what's happening on the field is absolutely eye catching. I think it's the speed and skill of the game just improves year on year on year. And yet I still feel like it's treated as a sideshow, which is a shame. I could do a whole podcast, really. I could probably do whole weeks of podcasts about, how I feel like it's managed or mismanaged, and what could be done to better promote it and look after it. But maybe we'll have to save that to the off season. But I did want to get that out on here. And yeah, I feel a lot of empathy for the players who are trying to get this done, who are essentially the pioneers of the AFLW. Like, I really think we're going to look back in 15, 20 years and go, what the F were we thinking?
Yeah.
Like, thank goodness we had those players who did this gig to get the game to where it'll be in another 2 decades. But I really think we're going to look back and go, Jesus, like we just, it was terrible, terrible decision making. But anyway, that's my
Yep.
little rant. Let's talk, Johnny. We don't have any concrete injury updates at this point, but obviously Sermon won't play. Having
No.
the concussion, obviously it'd be absolutely stunned if Amy McDonald played. But do you think this is a case of I think there's players in the squad who could come in. I think about former Hawk Caitlin Thorne as a possibility to come in and try and boost the midfield. I think about a player like Abby McDonald, who could get another chance.
Plummer.
Bridie O'Rourke is yet to debut. Who was the other one? Bella K. Smith. But who do you think out of the current lineup, do you see it being an adjustment in role? Like, is there anyone? We talked about Nina Morrison, obviously. She'll have to lead the way along with Prasparkas. But out of that next tier of midfield players, who else do you think is going to need to come along? Like, could you name 1 or 2 players that you think, if we're going to get this done, we're really going to need a big impact from player A, player B?
Yeah. I would say, well, obviously we'll like to see big impact from Nina Morrison, Georgie Prasparkas, so go without saying, but I'd also like to see Michaela Bowen and Rebecca Webster really have big impacts this week, and they're definitely capable of it. And I think with the absence of Amy McDonald, those two are two that stand out to me as ones that are obvious choices to step in and feel part of her role, either together or one steps in trying to take that role. So fairly big role to try and take on. So not expecting them to do exactly what Amy McDonald does, but I feel like one of those two has the skill and the ability to do parts of what Amy McDonald can. And I think we've seen it throughout this year and years before that. So yeah, I would put on Bowen and Webster to really step up this week and take the lead. And then, I think I also like to, I reckon Brooke Plummer I'd like to see her get another shot because I feel like she's got that, awareness, kicking ability, footy smarts, positioning, pressure. I think she does all that really well. So I feel like it would be a good chance for her to come in and cement another spot for herself or try to while Amax out. So yeah, I'll put it up to those two, Webster and Bowen, to be the ones to step up, and then Brooke Plummer I'd like to see come in.
Yeah, I think Plummer is a player who could step up step in if you want to push Becky Webster into the middle more consistently, because I think that Plummer can play that sort of halfback wing kind of role. So she could maybe go back in order to send Webster, further up the ground, on the ball. I think Becky Webster can have a big impact like that. But the other player I'd mention who I think, I could see filling in for that sort of, uncompromising, winning the ball at the bottom of the pack type of player that Amy McDonald is, Darcy Maloney. I feel like
Yes,
Darcy
of course.
Maloney, is a
The
player
enforcer.
who could really play a key role here while Amy McDonald is out. She's one of the first picked in the team every week, and I just feel like often she doesn't get as much of the ball as she might if some of these other midfielders weren't in the side. So this is an opportunity, I think, for her to really step in and step up a rung, I suppose, in the midfield pecking order, and win a bit of ball, win a few clearances for the Cats. I think she can do it. So yeah, I agree that I'd probably consider bringing Plummer into the side. But yeah, Sermon's a tough one to replace. I feel like
Yeah,
it's probably good that Michaela Bowen has been playing more time, in and around forward 50 this season, because it means she maybe can be that pressuring small forward that Kate Sermon has been. But it does mean you'll need some more support on the wing, and maybe that's a perfect time to bring in, as we said, a Brooke Plummer type player. All right, let's talk, Johnny, about what we want to see just really quickly. I might lead us off here if you don't mind,
Yep.
Johnny.
Go for it.
I just like to see a bit more organisation and solidity down back this week. I think there's a little bit of traffic down there as players adjust to different personnel playing different roles. Like, I think Claudia Gunjaka, has clearly become that number one tall defender, but I think Rach Kearns sometimes, plays that intercepting role, and then Meg McDonald sort of, I think sometimes is left going, well, what am I meant to be doing here? Like, I feel like we're yet to find exactly the right balance of how to play who we have down back. So I'd just love to see a week where we look really solid down back and cohesive. Would love to see a few more intercept marks. Like, those numbers were a little bit concerning, like how few
Yeah.
marks some of our best defenders took. So I'd really like to see an improvement down back, and what that will look like for me is just more of those times where we're reading the play better than the opponent and marking the ball. And obviously that comes a little bit from what's happening up the ground and our ability to pressure the ball use as it comes through the middle. But if we can't intercept and mark it, more times where we can get a fist in and spoil it and bring it to ground. I feel like there's a lot of times where the opponent was able to, if they weren't marking it, they were able to bring it to ground to their advantage Thursday night. Last week, geez, Johnny, I'm really suffering with these games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's what I want to see, is just an improved backline showing. What about you?
What do I want to say? I want to see Georgie Sparkus stand up this week really well and lead from the front through that midfield alongside Nina Morrison and either Bowen, Webster, and Maloney. But yeah, I'd like to see Georgie Sparkus really take front step and lead this team out from the midfield and really launch some good attacks inside 50 and apply pressure, because we all know that she is capable of not only sending the ball inside 50 precisely and extremely well, but she's also efficient at laying tackles and pressure on opposition players. And I reckon she'll be fired up this week. So I want to see her step up and be one of those players to take on Amy McDonald role and just dominate this game. I just like to see her dominate this game and go, this is the reason why I was a number one draft pick. I think she's already proved that many times over. I'd just like to see her prove it yet again. And at home in a big game, a season-defining game it could be as well. I'd just like to see her take the forefront and be the charger for the Cats.
Yeah, the other thing I want to see, no more injuries. No more injuries. Please. Can we just get through another week without having a major player go down injured? And if we would have Chloe Shear back for the next game, that'd be great. But I don't know. I'm not optimistic, Johnny, about Chloe Shear's return. You know, I don't like seeing there's that sort of, you know, I feel like there's a really specific amount of weeks given on the website to start with, and now it just says to be confirmed. So I don't like that when we go from something clear to something a little bit uncertain. That'll do it here for us on this public part of the show. If you would like to join us behind the Patreon curtain, then make sure you go on over to the Hoops Crew on Patreon and start your 7-day free trial. Right now, you get access to extended versions of our podcast, scratching post episodes with Paul. You get Wednesday news wraps. You get all sorts of extra bonus bits and pieces. You can also jump in and be a part of the Hoops Crew Patreon community chat. Some good chats going there, Johnny, about different Cats topics and footy. We've got a nice little active chatting community over on Patreon. So if you want to give that a whirl, sign up for a 7-day free trial. All right, that's all from us. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast app. We'd much appreciate it. And until next time, go Cats.
Go Cats.